Revered Swami Yogatmananda ji, esteemed speakers, and my dear friends. Where does my God live? What a lovely question. When I first saw the subject, I fell in love with that, what a wonderful question. It's a question that children ask. You're saying, children ask, where is God? And it's a question that theologians and philosophers ask. It's a very philosophically deep question. Where is God? It's a question that saints ask. Not in a doubting way, but when you miss God, when the saint's heart misses the presence of God. Where are you, my Lord? So in that sense, where is God? And it's a question that skeptics ask. Atheists ask, where is your God, quote unquote? Where? So it's a wonderful question. It's a lovely question. And I'm going to ask it thrice in the next few minutes. The first pass from a Vedantic perspective, where does my God live? And immediately it strikes me the where is a space word. Where asks about a place. Which place, which part of space, where does your God live? Or when is God? A time word. Why only where? When? Is God now, or was God in the past, or is God in the future? I saw a big billboard, after death you will meet God. Call 1800 something for the truth. But it's interesting. After death, when you say after, it's a time word. So when is God? Another billboard, just like that, it said, heaven is a place. God is in heaven. So that's a space word. Where is God? When is God? And again, what is God? Your God, when you talk about God, what exactly are you talking about? You talk about a human being, you know what you're talking about. A table or a chair, you know what you're talking about. But what God, when you say God, what is God? What's God made of? What is God? So in Vedanta, these are called Desha Kala Vastu, space, time, object. You can have a space question about God. Where is your God? You can have a time question about God. When is your God? And you can have an object question about God. What? Which one? What exactly is God? And the answer in Vedanta is, the word for God is Brahman, which literally means the vast. And the answer in Vedanta is, where is God? Everywhere. God is here, there, everywhere. When is God? God is every when. God is in the past, God is now, God is in the future. God is eternal. What is God? God is everything. There is no thing apart from God. So everywhere, all the time, and everything is God, and yet not quite. If you go even deeper, it's only by accepting, assuming that there is something called space, then you say God is everywhere. Because you're already accepting, assuming everywhere is there. So there is space, and then God is somehow filling up the space. Assuming that there is time, then you say God is eternal. Assuming there are objects, independently existing objects, then you say God pervades all of them. None of that is true, according to Vedanta. None of that is true. It's rather the other way around. Space is in God. God is not in space. It's not right. When you ask, where is your God? Vedanta will say, that's a wrong question. Not where is your God. Where is in God? The space, all space is in God. When is God? That's a wrong question. Because time itself is in God, is an appearance in God. What is God? When you say God is everything, you've already assumed everything exists and that somehow it's God. No, Vedanta says the other way around. Everything appears in God. Everything. Vivekananda said once in a poem written to one of his American disciples, Mary Hale, she wrote a poem to Vivekananda. I have understood what you have said, what you have taught, that all is God. And Swami Vivekananda wrote back and said, I have never taught such strange doctrine that all is God. All is not, God only is. That's Vedanta. Where is God? No. Where is not? God only is. When is God? When is not? God only is. What is God? What objects are not? God only is. And then, after that, when we accept, when we see, we experience universe, when we are asking this question in this universe. So then it makes sense to say, if you say that there is space, well, there is, we experience space, then God must be everywhere. And you accept time, we experience time, we are asking this question in time, and we are bound by time. So, in that case, God is eternal. God is not temporary like everything else. God is not, we are all located in space, limited in space, but God is not limited in space. We are all limited in time. We have birth and death. This program has a beginning and an end. But God is not limited in time, doesn't have a beginning or an end, eternal. And each of us, we are entities, we are distinct entities, we are distinct persons and distinct things. God is not a thing among other things. God is that which is unlimited by things. So the way to put it is, God is in all things, or nothing is there apart from God. But that's already making some compromise with our experience, with the way we experience the universe. Well, that creates a problem. Just to say God is everywhere, it's cheap. God is everything, it's cheap. God is eternal, that's cheap too. Why is it cheap? Because the problem is, aren't you just taking this universe and calling it God? You're just changing the name. Here's this world, here are people, here are tables and chairs, here's the sky and the earth. Here are quasars and quarks. And we call it the universe. And now you're just coming along and calling it God. What good does that do? What good does that do? Why not? Because this universe is the problem for us. Here is birth and death. Here is old age and sickness. Here is misery and sin and imperfection. See, this is the problem with pantheism, you see. Why religions object to Spinoza's pantheism, for example. It's because you are taking the universe, and somehow it sounds cool to say everything is God, and yet that means God is subject to misery and death and suffering and sickness and limitation. Then just call it the world. Why are you calling it God? Even worse. If you say God is everywhere, my problem is then in that case God must be here. If God is everywhere, God must be here. If God lives everywhere, God must be living here. But I don't see God here. You see, it is an advantage to saying God is in heaven. Then if somebody asks, why can't I see God? Well, because God is in heaven. You're not in heaven. And there's an advantage. There's an advantage to saying God is after death. What's the advantage? Then if you ask, why can't I experience God? Why can't I see God? Because it's after death. Didn't I tell you? Read the board. After death you will see God. You are not dead yet. There's an advantage. And if you say God is everything, there's a problem, because I don't see God in anything. You see, God is everywhere. I don't see God anywhere. God is eternal all the time. I don't see God anytime. And God is in everything. I don't see God in one single thing also. That's the problem. Vedanta gets around this by saying that the difference, that it is true that God is everywhere, that God is in all things, and God is eternal, but why is it hidden from us? It's hidden by ignorance. Hidden by not knowing, not realizing, not seeing what is already an open secret. It's presented to us. It's right here, right now, all the time, in all things, but we don't see it. And the reason we don't see it is it's ignorance. There's an Upanishad, Taittiriya Upanishad, which tells us where is God and how to see God. It says, Satyam Jnanam Anantam Brahma, infinite existence and consciousness, or infinite existence, reality and knowledge, infinite is Brahman. Brahman is unlimited existence or being, and unlimited awareness or consciousness. That is Brahman. Now we know why the name for God, or term applied for God in Vedanta is Brahman. It literally means the vast, the unlimited. If it was not everywhere, it would be limited in space. If it was not all the time, it would be limited in time. And if there is anything other than God, it would be limited in object. There would be something other than God. All that's fine, but one may still persist. Okay? God is here. God is now. God is anything that we experience here, show me. And Vedanta boldly takes up that challenge and says, yes, it's an open secret. We are experiencing God all the time. Where? Look at things which exist. God is defined as unlimited existence or unlimited reality. Look at things which exist. And we see this, tables and chairs and people, they all exist. So are these things God? Not quite. These are all limited existences. Remember, we define God as unlimited existence. So these are all limited existences. But there is one thing in all of this which is unlimited, and which is existence itself, being itself. In Vedanta, this is called Sat, pure being. It's like, you see 10,000 waves in the ocean. Waves are continuously coming up and growing, rising and falling and disappearing. But one thing that doesn't rise and disappear is water. Water is always there. The water of the ocean is always there. It comes up as waves and it disappears, but all the waves are nothing but that water. If you ask, where does water live in this ocean? Everywhere. But I see waves. That's water. Now I see no waves. That's water. I see bubbles. I see foam. I see surf. That's water. And the Upanishads talk about many such examples, clay and pots, and there are various kinds of pottery. Are those God? Not quite. Are those clay? Not quite. But the reality of all of them is clay. The substance out of which they have all been made is clay. Exactly like that in this universe of all existing things. Living and non-living, concrete things like this, and abstract things like a number or concepts and ideas, or Plato's forms or whatever. All of them, notice one thing common to all of them. They exist. They are. That's why we are talking about them. So this unlimited existence in all existing things, this is God. This is the God of Vedanta, an unlimited being. A recent philosopher, I think the most brilliant thinker in the 20th century, Martin Heidegger, he is the one who brought up this question of existence in Western thought again. And he says the deepest, widest, and the most fundamental question we can ask is the question of existence. Why is it deep? Because, in science, for example, deep means like the body. You can talk of it, from a physiological point of view. You can talk a bit deeper from a biological point of view. Even deeper, you can talk about it from a chemical point of view. Even deeper, you can talk about it from a physics point of view, particles and all. But even deeper is existence itself, being itself. So it's the deepest question possible. It's the widest question possible, because everything, each branch of knowledge talks about only that. Biology talks about living things. Music talks about music, songs and instruments and all. Music doesn't talk about cells and tissues. But there's one subject which talks about everything possible, and that's existence. You say, wait a minute, what about non-existence? Well, non-existence doesn't exist, so we can leave it out. Heidegger says this. By the way, he was a Nazi, which goes to show you can be a brilliant thinker and not a particularly good human being at all. No. That's very interesting. So, this is the idea of God in Vedanta. And Vedanta says this unlimited being, this unlimited consciousness, this unlimited bliss, this unlimited being consciousness itself is bliss, ananda or bliss. So that Brahman, the ultimate reality, God, is also called Sat Chit Ananda, existence, consciousness, bliss, or existence, awareness, bliss, Sat Chit Ananda. Where does God live? Where does my God live? My God lives in existence, Sat. Where does my God live? My God lives in consciousness, in awareness, in every experience that we have. One of the Upanishads says, Pratibodha viditam amritatvam vindate. Pratibodha viditam matam amritatvam hi vindate. In every experience, when you experience God, you attain immortality. So every experience is based on consciousness. Without consciousness, no experience. That pure consciousness, underlying consciousness, not the changing awareness that we are talking about here, that is God. God lives in Chit, pure consciousness. Where does God live? God lives in Ananda, in bliss, in fulfillment, in joy. The three greatest questions of philosophy. What is real? That's one branch of philosophy, ontology. It used to be called metaphysics at one time. How is knowledge possible? That's another question, epistemology. And what is the purpose of all of this? What is good? What is bad? What is moral? What is immoral? What is beautiful and what is not beautiful? It used to be called ethics and aesthetics at one time. It's all clubbed under a branch. Now the new name is axiology. So philosophy consists of the greatest, most fundamental questions that we can ever ask. Ontology, epistemology, axiology. And very, very interesting, it struck me, the Vedanta idea of God, conception of God, being, consciousness, bliss, are actually answers to these three questions. What is ultimately real? Existence is real. But, Sat is the answer. How is knowledge possible? Chit, consciousness is the answer. What is the point of it all? Ananda, bliss is the answer. Sat, Chit, Ananda. And even this is not, if this is not dramatic enough, Advaita Vedanta says the real secret, the heart of Advaita Vedanta is this Sat, Chit, Ananda, this infinite being, infinite awareness, infinite fulfillment is you. Tat Tvamasi, you are that. Where does God live? God lives in you. That's not quite right. God is you. But don't mistake it for you, the individual person. That's megalomania. That's craziness. That's why it has to be handled carefully, this truth. Tat Tvamasi, you are that thou art. Aham Brahmasmi, I am Brahman. So God does not live in you. God is you in reality. In knowledge, in enlightenment, you and God are the same reality. One of our Swamis, senior Swamis, told a young monk who told me in his old age that this Swami, he said to me, he touched me in the forehead like this, and I was startled because of sudden touch in the forehead, and this old Swami said to me, there, that one which got startled, which shrank back immediately, that one, there is no rascal called God other than that one. In Bengali, Shala. So, it's just this Vedantic statement. What we call God and what we call you, truly understood, not on a surface level, never on a surface level, is one and the same thing. But I hear you, what you are saying, what you are thinking in the mind, that's all very metaphysical, that's all very philosophical, they're all very abstract. Let's get real. Second time I'll ask this question, where does your God live? Where does my God live? The same Upanishad says, you want to know where God lives, want to find God, experience God? Look in your heart. You see there's in the cave of your heart, there is a sacred space. In the sacred space of the cave of your heart, you will find God. Yo veda nihitam guhayam parame vyoman. You can see God, you can experience God in the sacred space of your heart. In the devotee's heart, the beloved dwells. In the yogi, the meditator's heart, is the divine light shining. It is hidden. How is it hidden? It is hidden by inattention. It is hidden by the movements of our mind, the fluctuations of our mind. Still the mind, the yogi says, attend to what is within, not to what is outside. We do not see the divine within because we are continuously pouring ourselves out into the world outside. I'm translating from the Upanishads. It is a spiritual hero who averts the gaze, sort of stops the gaze from going outwards and looks inwards and stills the mind and sees the divine within. Where does your God live? Your God lives in the heart of the devotee, in the heart of the one who loves God, in the heart of the one who attends, who pays attention. Once more, we shall ask, all right, that's, inwardness, but what about this world? Where does God live? Where does your God live? Sri Ramakrishna, Swami Vivekananda's guru, he once said, Shiva Jnane Jiva Seva. Serve all sentient beings knowing them to be God. Serve all sentient beings knowing them to be God. Where does God live? Everywhere, in everything, and at all time. Great. But Vivekananda said, my God, the poor. My God, the ignorant. My God, the wicked. So especially, God lives in action. God lives in service. God lives in love. In this world, when you are engaged with this world. My God, the poor. My God, the sick. My God, the ignorant. My God, the wicked, he says. If it be true that God is, your Vedanta says, everywhere and everything, and nothing is there other than God, then the things where we would not expect to find God, there actually God is more manifest. Where does your God live? My God lives in service. My God lives in love. My God lives in the dynamic action where we pour ourselves out in the service of God in all sentient beings, especially in humanity, most manifest in humanity. Here also it's hidden. Here also it's hidden. It's hidden. We see human beings. Where's God? It's hidden. It's hidden by our greed. It's hidden by lust. It's hidden by anger. Kama, krodha, lobha. When anger, greed, and lust are converted into love, into sacrifice, and then into service, you see God in all sentient beings. So three times we asked this question. 3 times we have found answers. One of the most vast metaphysical answer, all-encompassing. God and God only. Satyam, Jnanam, Anantam, Brahma. Infinite existence, consciousness is Brahman, the vast. Everywhere, all the time, in everything. But hidden by ignorance, revealed by knowledge. Second time we ask, where does your God live? In yourself, in your heart. Hidden by inattention, by distraction, revealed by attention, by turning inwards, by meditation. And third time when we ask this question, where does your God live? It lives in suffering. It lives in sorrow. It lives in the worst of places, in the worst of people. And it is hidden by our ambition, greed, anger, lust, and it is revealed by love, and it is revealed by sacrifice and expressed in service. Thank you very much. Thank you.